Welcome to the Yang Gang Roundtable. Today is, oh gosh, what is today? Let me see. It is Saturday, July 18th. There we go. And we have here the Humanity First Movement Interim Board, of which Angela, one of our regular speakers, is a part. So I'm going to just pass the microphone over to you, Angela, and let you introduce yourself and your coworkers here.
Thank you, Shale. So my name is Angelo Mendoza. You can find me at Hellion Hellfire on Twitter. So I would like to introduce the rest of the Humanity First Movement Interim Board. Next up is Yenny.
Sorry, couldn't unmute. Hi, I'm Yenny. I am in Massachusetts. I'm a member of the Humanity First Movement Interim Board, and also on the Humanity First Collective Massachusetts team. Nice to be here.
All right. So next up, Elaine.
Hey guys, Elaine Way here and from California. Part of the California leadership of the Yang Gang for the state. Here also on the Humanity First Movement Interim Board. Happy to be here. It's good to see the Yang Gang has a round table and talks about substantive issues. It's good to have more influencers out in the sphere because we want to have people continue to talk about policies and candidates that help move our movement forward. So thanks for guys for hosting us here and excited for the talk.
Yeah, thank you for coming. There are so many different like Yang Gang influencers, and there's so many small little nuclear groups, and we just try to bring them together to share information, bridge communication gaps to get us all on the same page. So we're very happy to have you. We're gonna move on to who's
Massey.
Massey. There.
Hey guys, I'm Massey from Houston, Texas, and yeah, so I've been on the board for a couple months now, and it's been exciting. It's been a lot of work, and we've did a big action on July 11th. Got tweeted by Yang, so that was a super awesome win. And then we're gonna do another big action coming up on the 25th. So excited to talk more about the stuff we're doing with the coalition partners. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I want to hear what those big actions were. That sounds meaty. So finally, who's the last person? Who's the last person we have not introduced yet? I'm not great at understanding.
No, I think we put Angelo first, so I think I was the last one.
That was it. Okay, that's what threw me off. All right, so tell me about these big actions that you took.
So yeah.
So actually, Matthew, if it's okay if I step in real quick.
I
want to introduce Humanity First Movement, right? What does that mean?
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you. That's what we should do.
Yeah, so Humanity First Movement is actually the next iteration of the National Yang Gang from the Yang 2020 campaign. So mostly everybody is made up of Yang Gang. Basically, we're getting everyone back together to make sure that we kind of coordinate at a national level for not just, basically what was 2020, but also 2022, 2024, in both local and national actions. We have been trying to support people like Breuer, obviously, Blair Walsingham, David Kim in California, and other local candidates because we want people to remember that Humanity First policies are still there. And a lot of the core values that we believed in for the Yang 2020 campaign still continue to push those, integrity, transparency, humanity first, make America think harder, grace and forgiveness, not left, not right, forward, right, to try to make sure that we continue to grow that and bring people back together, and especially during these times of pandemic, right, and protests and financial and emotional upheaval and instability. So we're trying to take on a lot, right? So what's really great about Humanity First Movement is that we do have at least 13 or more states who are on board, active, trying to get everyone else back on board. We do meet with Humanity Forward, which is Andrew Yang's nonprofit. They are a partner. We are a separate legal entity. We will be a separate legal entity to make sure that we support the states and the local actions because we believe in growing the movement beyond any one candidate. Policies and not the person, right? So I'll end here with the fact that we do meet with Humanity Forward on a weekly and will be bi-weekly basis. We will be actually meeting with Andrew Yang on Monday, which is really great because we want to get him plugged back into showing and or supporting some of the stuff that we're doing, which Massey's going to talk about the actions a little bit later on. But we are looking to grow the movement beyond Andrew Yang because again, we don't know what any public personality or political career where that will be right in 2022, 2024. So we want to make sure that we are making sure that we support all candidates and all policies that will help, all of us move forward. All right.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're definitely on the same page there. This is a much bigger movement than can be pinned on one man. Although, it's good to have him to rally around. Andrew Yang can't do the heavy lift of basic income or his other policies on his own. So that's great to hear. So Massey, do you want to tell us about the coordinated actions that you've taken?
Yeah, sure. Elaine made a great point, because I think you have to see sort of where we've been coming from as a movement and sort of what's been happening sort of across the country. Obviously, we've all been experiencing the pandemic, but sort of what that did and helped in certain ways, and made things very tough in others to sort of actually go and rally the Yang Gang. We all had a bunch of sudden free time on our hands. I know I lost my job, but it's also been tough because there's it's hard to actually go do stuff to rally and organize around. It's we can sit and talk about org structures, but we realize that we all care about doing stuff, and that's why we got involved in Yang Gang and actually trying to make us presidency and this movement continue on. And so in the past couple months, we've been got connected. Yeni actually helped get us connected with a group called Movement for a People's Party, and so they're essentially a popular group, populist group that is trying to get rid of the corruption inside DC, and they're against the two-party system, but at the end of the day, they're about fixing people's lives and implementing policy that helps normal people. And we all know about the war on normal people. So we see that we have a lot of overlapping values and desires, and so they got us in a national action they've been planning and working on, and that is is going door to door to as many Congress members as we could, and giving a list of 6 demands based on police stimulating the economy and police reform. So we did that on July 11th. We spent a couple weeks protesting or started planning that protest and trying to organize as many as we can. We had over 30 events. We got a bunch of Congress members to come on board, and then others we knew it wasn't going to be a single one-day thing, but a lot of people, they're like, all right, just don't come to our house and we'll have a town hall. And, Guinea can talk more about that in a second. But a lot of them, what we got on was, they're starting to open dialogue, more, likely to meet with us. And so we've seen it's been effective, and we're gearing up for another set of actions on the 25th, because we know that the last stimulus, bill, they're trying to get it done by the end of the month before the next thing happens. And so we have been working on a way to try to get monthly payments as part of that stimulus package. That's one of our being part of the Yang Gang Humanity First, that's been like our #1 goal, and we're trying to get done. So we're building these coalitions around that with the income movement, obviously Humanity Forward, and then a Movement for People's Party that's also getting moved to amend. And we're working on trying to get a Poor People's Campaign. We have a bunch of people coming around who understand the need for continuous monthly payments and how that just dynamically and drastically changes people's lives. And we're just want to scale up the 25th to make it bigger and better. Yin, you want to talk about what happened on the 11th? Because I think that was ended up being one of the flagship super big learning opportunities for all of us.
Yeah, so I'm in Central Massachusetts, and my representative is Congressman McGovern. And he is an ally on a lot of these fronts. So the folks in Worcester reached out to him, asked him about would he come outside, and he asked for us to not do it at his house, but to go to and do basically a rally that was kind of mixed with a town hall. So we had speakers on each of the demands. Gray Black, who's former interim board member, was our speaker for the UBI request. And then we had questions for each of the demands so that he could answer each in turn and also not wheedle out of any individual one by not really answering it. And he was actually a big fan of, a supporter of all 6 demands. The event got very focused on the defunding the Worcester Police Department because McGovern's former campaign manager is our city manager. So there was a lot of focus on that, but it's the video is up on our Unity radio station for Worcester. They live streamed it, and we also had our Spectrum like local news agency that came, and they had a article. We had 2 articles up in the Telegram, 1 article up on Made in Worcester, and another article up on the Spectrum news site with a whole video segment. And then they put that video segment on air that night. And we actually got a mention out on the Boston News as well. So it was a really like oddly big event. We didn't expect it to be quite that impressive. We got about 100 people there as well. Used the pavilion at one of the parks nearby. So it was an interesting event. I didn't attend because I'm high risk for COVID. So I wasn't doing anything outside, but I was doing some social media stuff from home and sharing the video and getting it up in different places. And we're trying to do for the 25th to do something similar with Marky. So we're trying to get in touch with him and his team to get that set up so that because it was also like really nice to give them the chance to say like, yes, we do support this. And then the next stage of stuff that we're planning, we've got a partnership with Income Movement. So we are going to be participating in the Basic Income March, which is going to be a nationwide, well, worldwide event on September 19th. That is going to, because of COVID, be not just a march, but some places will do a car rally, some places will do standing out on different street corners, some places might do art installations. So there's a wide variety of different ways that communities can get involved that will have a big impact. Even if it's not this like huge march of people going down a street, there's still a lot of ways to get some big impact with that. So we're asking for cities and towns and people in the Yang Gang all over the country to help plan these kinds of events. And Income Movement is leading the charge on that. They are doing a fantastic job. You can find info at basicincomemarch.com. And then we also have
Did we lose her?
Oh, a little frozen.
All right, so I was just gonna throw a little the juice, the tea on the Houston, what happened in ours, because I was pretty nervous. I was helping
every day. Every day.
I think we lost you there for a bit, Yenny.
Oh. What'd you lose me on?
A
little bit after the Basic Income March, I think.
Oh, okay, so the Basic Income March is basicincomemarch.com. And then we're also doing a bunch of actions online and getting people to send letters to the editor and letters to their congressmen and senators so that we can have, we can do as much as we possibly can. You can send those letters daily to your
congressperson.
You can send them daily to the you can send one a day to the congressperson.
Yeah.
And because part of the energy we're trying to build for this is we want, now that like we've kind of successfully mainstreamed UBI, we have shifted the Overton window to a place where like everyone for the most part has heard of it now. Like it's inside their brain, whether they're against it or for it, that's the next push. But right now there's, in terms of, depending on how you phrase it, but we're seeing a lot of positivity when you phrase it as monthly stimulus payments, because people got those stimulus cash payments and they liked it, and I was like, oh wow, that was super huge, that was like really good for us, and it kept the economy going. And so that's sort of the phrasing we're working on for this immediate time, and so we're trying to push that phrasing. And for the July 11th action, we're going to go to Ted Cruz's super nice neighborhood and stuff, and we did. And then we got an email from one of the people who live in the neighborhood who's on our side and on our team with our coalition partners, and they they somehow got wind of it. We think what we were doing started getting and going through Congress and sort of raising some eyebrows because some Congress people reached out directly to us. And so I got an email saying, they watch out, and there was more police cars than there were protest cars, even though there were like 15 cars that we had. And we talked to the police. They wanted my name and my birthday and my address, and friendly, but like I know what they're trying to do, right? They got my first name, so we wanted to make sure that they're in peaceful, but there's things that need to be reformed, and we're not trying to sit here and dilly-dally about trying to, Congress people don't like it when you go to their house, so maybe could you do it around, that's the whole point. We're not doing what you like because you're not doing what we like, right? So that's the phrase. And so we got some interest. We had a bunch of cars made a bunch of noise, be delivering some further messages. But I was actually at our food bank because we have bread lines in Houston. I know they got a bunch of headlines 3 months ago and sort of people forgot, but bread lines are still a thing in America, which is crazy. But there is now they're doing it every week in our NRG Stadium parking lot, because that's the big stadium we have here in Houston. And so that's the only place they can have enough cars, fit enough cars to actually give enough food, which again is how is this not a bigger deal? So what we ended up doing is, so we had someone who actually was working there, one of our local volunteers at Humanity Forward Houston. Join the Facebook page if you're part of the team and you're coming from Southeast Texas. We'd love to get you part of it. But he was there and actually got to talk to the mayor, the fourth largest city in America's mayor. And talk to him about UBI. And he's UBI state UBI trial or city UBI trials. He's like, oh yeah, I'd heard of it. And he's a little defensive. And then he's like, actually, no, now that I'm thinking about it, we've been looking at on this at a national level. So we may have an ally here in one of the largest cities who's looking at national UBI. So it's the ideas are getting out there. We're making the headway that needs to be made. And we're actually hoping to sort of do a demonstration / volunteer-a-thon next Saturday for our 25th action. At the grounds where the bread lines are. There's a big grass place. We want to get our local congresswoman, Sheila Jackson Lee, because we had a demonstration there too on the 11th at her house, and their people got freaked out, please don't go to Sheila Jackson's house. You want to talk to us? Here's a number and email, and he got in touch with her chief of staff. So you get people's attention, right? And you can get contact with the emails. We want to get Al Green, who is the first person asking for impeachment of Trump, and whether you like Trump or hate Trump or whatever. We're looking for people who are willing to make a stand and go against the grain of the narrative of the party. And no, we're not going to allow a stimulus bill to go through Congress without it having monthly stimulus payments. That's any Democrat or anyone who is voting on a bill that comes from the Senate that doesn't have monthly recurring payments is you're caving to a side that you don't need to. We have so much leverage, and you're not going to help the people. So that is the message we're sending. If you're really an ally for the people, you're really progressive, you're a forward thinker, this is where we're drawing the line. You're either for monthly, stimulus payments, and really you need to also be for rent and, debt freeze until people can pay their rent, so they just don't have debt accumulating on top of their head. So, because that's going to be a killer, right? You're not going to get evicted, but you're just going to have years and months and months of debt piling up, which is going to get you evicted eventually. So.
Inevitably, yeah.
So what Massey's talking about, we do have a 3 to 6 month projection. We've actually asked for states to have that as well, because we also want to coordinate and make the most of our time before the general election, right, in November. So what's really awesome is that I think that a lot of the Yang Gangs and also the Humanity First movement is looking to partner with other grassroots organizations, like Massey said, MPP, Our Revolution, Income Movement, Income Movement has been a great partner. Just want to give them a shout out there, and to kind of make sure that we are putting congressional pressure on, whether at the local, state, or federal level, to make sure that we make, Massey said, to make the most of the time that we have, right?
Okay.
Because once general election's done, then people are going to tend to go back to sleep. And I think that we have added pressure with pandemic, right? And also these protests. People are shaken up. They're looking around who's helping, who's providing a solution, what can we do? People are out in the streets, I think, because I personally think people are in the streets because they're expressing their frustration, they're expressing their helplessness, expressing, the desire to wield control over their own communities and their own lives, right? Yeah. So I think that sorry.
I just had an idea for Massey. Maybe you can say, Houston, we have a problem, and Houston, we know how to fix our problem. with
Okay.
monthly stimulus payments.
Houston,
let
we have a
Elaine
problem.
finish though. All right. Please continue, Elaine.
Yeah, no worries. So, no, I mean, like we're trying to stitch everyone together. And I think a lot of the other grassroots are really open because we need all hands on deck, right? Everyone that we can get on board during this election cycle. And I firmly believe not left, not right forward. I'm independent. I'm no party preference. So I think that actually probably is the wave of the future. You know what I mean? Like whether you believe in party reform from the inside, et cetera, I think that we need all the
Democracy
strategies.
reform.
Yes. Yeah, we need all the strategies because in the end, my whole position is I understand politics is about the things that surround and touch the people, but I'm interested more on like the actions that we can do to make sure that people are actually taken care of. Because for me, like I do make a delineation between politicians and legislators. And I believe we need more legislators and then politicians. So for me, I'm always going to be like, do your fucking job. So anyway, sorry, excuse my language.
No, that's
But
beautifully said.
yeah, so
You
Do
know,
your fucking job.
and I think that's what we're trying to do with Humanity First Movement is partner, like lift all boats, because we're all trying to head in the same direction for the most part.
yeah. I always make a joke about that idiom. It's like you need a boat first, or else you're gonna drown. It's like get everyone in a boat before rising the tide. I feel like basic income gives everyone a boat. But yeah, yes, thank you. You're really kicking ass. You guys are great. You're doing so much, and you have a real understanding that now is the moment we have. We must strike while the iron is hot, and congressional pressure is where we should be putting our focus. You guys are fantastic. I'm so glad that you came on the show.
Thank you.
Appreciate you having us. Yeah, we're trying to work really hard. We're just like normal people who are trying to do the best we can. So I know
We're all
that's
exactly.
That's
Yeah.
what we all
wonderful.
are. We're the normal people, and we're
Doing
just
what we
Right.
can with what we
trying to
got.
fight back. Yeah.
I mean, we're doing the jobs of like Congress and our government and our local representatives like more than they are, and that really says something because they're showing a really big lack of urgency. How many vacations has Congress went on in the middle of the
Abdication of
national?
duty is the term I would use.
Yeah,
Abdication of fucking duty.
their dereliction of duty, and it's so disgusting when you think like if your business went on fire, and would that be a time to say, oh, I decided to take a vacation?
Well, I mean,
it's so
if you
ridiculous.
Yeah, I
really
mean, like
have any ties to the business, sure.
Pelosi even said like, "Oh, I'm going to delay our
Jesus.
recess." I'm like,
Ah.
that's a like you need
It's like,
to
oh, we're doing the
delay
people a
it?
favor.
Like that's an
No,
issue.
they work for we the people. It's not us the representatives. It's we the people, and it's like what it's like your boss is like, oh, like sales are down, our advertising stinks. We're gonna have to sell off the business soon if you don't come here and like help out with the company. And then you're like, oh, sorry, like I really want to go to Hawaii right now. It's like I'm not gonna. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Governing is so hard, man. I want to just I want to take
No,
a break.
actually, governing is
Can we
fun.
take
I was working with the city of LA. Like, no, and I
Yeah,
mean, like, for me,
true.
unfortunately, like, the position I was in, like, it was so interesting because if you get the right people in the right room, like, you can actually make shit actually happen, but it's, like, so hard to get that, get
I
people
was
in the
being
right room and then have the,
sarcastic.
oh, okay. Well, no, to be honest with you, if you govern right, there is a lot of work involved. So I helped write policy for the city of Los Angeles. That was county-wide. So it did take a lot of fucking work, but it's, if you care, you're doing a lot of work. You know what I mean? If you don't care, then like it's like, what are you prioritizing? Taking calls from donors or actually writing policy and like actually negotiating for your bills to get passed? Like actually paying attention to your constituents.
But if
And,
you're a
like,
decent
Taking
human
calls
being,
from donors is
Right.
it's a big
it's
job.
Like 6 to 8 hours a day. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I
Did you
mean,
guys ever see that Anthony Weiner documentary? I'd never seen it before, and he and his wife were like calling donors like nonstop. And I was like, dude, where
It's
are
the
you
whole
writing your
job.
policy?
Yeah.
Well,
no
Like,
time
what's
for
the
that.
sign?
His
That's the
staff
thing with
writes his
Congress.
policy. It's
Yeah.
it's
A
the
staffer,
system is so
hand that over.
fundamentally broken.
That's so
Yeah.
terrible.
Well,
But
that's the
one
thing
thing
with
I was
Congress.
actually
Congress wants to do two things. They want to get elected and then do the least amount of work as possible until it's time to get reelected.
It's so
Yeah,
bad.
work
That's
isn't
like a
fun for some.
real
I thought we were,
break.
America. I thought we were America, like hardworking country, like where we like enjoy work because we know it contributes to community and society and stuff. But like somehow the people who have the most important job that contributes to community and society, like are like trying to do the least work. Not exactly sure like the logic, but
My whole thing is like accountability and transparency. For me, if you don't have people like actually going in and monitoring and basically like, we're going to be coming in and taking a look at
Yeah.
it, right? Like
Right.
everybody has a performance evaluation,
Right.
but our
Yeah.
politicians
Yeah.
literally don't get any. Like, so my
It's
job at
disgusting.
City of Los Angeles was monitoring compliance. So I'm all about like, dude, like we're gonna come on like operationally.
I remember
told me
what is it? Do you guys know Mark Thomas Ridley? He's like a council member in Los Angeles or something like that. And I remember when he was like at a big event, and I wanted to have a chat with him, and his handlers and his media people were like trying to keep me away from him. It's like, excuse me, idiots. Like, this is his job. It's like it's like it's so gross. I don't know what to say.
Well, I mean that's part of it too, right? Like kind of like what I was telling people was that like politicians once they get elected, they go from bubble to bubble, from like their car to their office to the elevator to the meeting, and it's like you're right. Like they don't have any actual interface with normal people or real people unless it's scheduled, right? Like a town hall.
Unless they do
Or
a
like
town
a
hall.
like
And
That's
even
so
the town
artificial.
halls.
Like they
I
don't
went to-
participate in their communities in an organic way.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
they do not have a
Yeah,
real
I went
sense
to
of
a
what's
town
going
hall
on.
with Markey and McGovern, and it basically just got taken over by people yelling at them to not yell about Trump. Like it was a climate change town hall where they're supposed to be talking about like what's going on about like specific climate change stuff, and they just took it over.
It's just a microcosm for American politics as a whole right now, isn't it? We're just yelling about, no, don't talk about this, talk about that. And we're not talking about anything except, I guess, Trump.
It's media narrative, and that's kind of sad.
It's the legacy media's death throes, and they're just taking us all down with them. It's awful.
Well, that's the thing with
it's
Trump
a
being a
show.
reality TV
ADHD
star.
problem.
Well, I was gonna say shows like this, right? And independent media hopefully will be more and more the mainstream.
We're trying
right?
our
But
best.
then we also, and I mean, I think that's the reason why, like, one of the really cool initiatives I've heard about is bringing internet to the rural areas too. I mean, because people are saying, like, obviously now more than ever, if you're social distancing, right, or looking for telehealth, or looking to find more information that's not cable or public news, what is it on the internet, right? So you're basically effectively like doing like it's almost like blacking out whole communities. So I've always found that kind of cool. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, right? The bringing internet to the rural communities and stuff.
Well, I mean, I haven't. I know there are several initiatives, and I think internet needs to be treated like a public utility. It's as vital almost as electricity
100%.
or water at this point. And those
can't
people
compete.
can't fully participate in American society without the internet. So rural internet must be a priority. You're absolutely right, and it would change the electoral climate as well. These people, would have access to information.
Even if we do get like a thing about getting it everywhere, we also need to stop the monopoly that they have, because each of the companies picks a zone, and the other companies agree to not go into those zones.
True.
When Worcester was renegotiating with Spectrum, Comcast was potentially coming in instead, because they might have been trading areas in Massachusetts.
Yep, they do it all over the place, and that's where we need federal government to make sure that they don't do that.
Yeah, well, phone companies do that too. There's a reason for that, though. During the original boost to the internet in the early 90s and the subsequent .com bubble, there was only so many IP addresses that could exist that were sold. So any company that wants to actually be an internet service provider has to lease those block of IP addresses from someone that owns them. And right now, only the big three own them, which is currently Verizon, Cox Media, and AT&T.
Sounds like we need an antitrust stuff going on.
Yeah, no, it's like I'm always been like a competition person. I have a startup. I love building new ideas. Like I'm a competitive person by nature, and I believe in the ability to compete. And I believe it brings the best out of people, and it brings options and choice, which is fundamentally American. But we've gotten to this place where like that concept and mentality gets over like thrown on top of that. Means can be no government program, there could be nothing to do with it. In many ways is we need a government to compete. If you can't beat the inefficiency of the government bureaucracy of basic internet service, like that means you're corrupt and you're not providing composition and you're not providing as good a service as you could do. So I mean, it's just top down, authority of service. I mean, who cares if it has a .gov or a .att afterwards? It doesn't really matter. We're getting back to this fundamental issue of just like corruption and like doing things to maintain power and push out competition. And that's the whole point of theoretically why limited government is good. But like sometimes you need more to like get a limited control. It's just I don't know, boggling sometimes.
I think that I would sort of agree in the sense of like, if we were to get more government, what would we be doing? What their function is, right? Because I guess I would probably like say that oversight should be a much bigger role, for each of the different agencies and industries, meaning that like we had something called checks and balances, right? But none of the three actually check and balance each other. So I mean, they've kind of gamed the game. So it's kind of like how do we go about doing that, right? So regardless of party, like regardless of whoever's in there, like if you have oversight, like objectively speaking, like this is a set of procedures that we're going to do like pretty much like every like half year, maybe every year. Like I think that like that would do a lot to keep people honest, I think, especially if it's tied to jail time and not just fines. I guess that's maybe something controversial I'll bring up is that like, I believe that a lot of white collar crimes, like they have a lot of heavy fines, but if it's 1% of what the profit they earn that year, that's not going to be really much of a consequence.
100% agree with you. Yeah.
Right. So I think if it's jail time, I mean, they have freaking ankle bracelets.
It's more like the Scandinavian
but like
model.
maybe there needs to be some sort of actual punitive damages because you affect thousands upon thousands, if not millions of lives through your action.
I completely agree. I've had this thought so many times, and thank you for articulating. I just never I don't think I've really had that conversation, at least not in a long time. But yeah, yes, that's more like the Scandinavian sort of scale of crime severity, where the worst crime is tax evasion, because you are depriving everyone of all these governmental services that they need to live.
100%.
So yeah,
That's interesting.
Yeah, and doing the sending them to locked up in their house with an ankle bracelet is like giving them a vacation because they live in these ginormous houses that are freaking resorts. They've got pools, they've got gyms, like they're not lacking for anything living in.
They got internet.
If with great power there comes great responsibility, that means there is a real risk. If we have this criminal justice system and you are a person capable of committing systemic crime that can do more damage than an individual can with their body doing a physical crime, you should be punished accordingly. But we don't think that way in this country.
Yeah, I mean, law is supposed to.
Sorry.
I was just gonna say, law is supposed to be like the ethics and morality, the collective ethics of our society, and that protecting the people that it's been, and that's sort of what we're told. And I think we're starting to see, especially as we hear more about sort of the history of police and feel that like, oh, maybe not all laws were meant to protect everyone, that they're really meant to protect people in power, and that we kind of told, oh, it's meant to protect you and this is why you can't do this stuff. But like, I think we're seeing is that like, no, like we need to make laws for the greater of society. And I think one of the issues is that we need to do a better job of visualizing the damage of corruption, because we can see that, like, we can see numbers on a spreadsheet of taxes evaded or money stolen from old grandmas and grandpas. But if we had seen the devastation of what Bernie Madoff had done, and we actually got to see the lives and like lost and people in the hospital beds who could no longer afford treatment or all the different things that they affected. If we could see these people that like skimping out on their taxes, like how it physically affects people, I think those are the crimes that we're charging with, and this is an easier way to collect it under that. So I'm 100% on board.
Massey, it's funny you should mention that, because we've talked about on the show before how the Constitution forbids the establishment of a nobility class, which is basically different rights based on class status. And interestingly enough, despite that being forbidden in the Constitution, that's still something that is essentially in practice. Like, for example, Congress is able to wiggle out of insider trading laws, which are a felony for everyone else. And white collar crime is treated much differently than
Yes, it is.
what we would consider mundane everyday crime. So it's kind of strange that we are essentially in a pseudo nobility structure, even though the Constitution expressly forbids it.
Yeah. So I have a sort of like a maybe slightly controversial, but like like anything over $1 million inheritance tax, I should be 100%. Like
I completely
like
agree with that. Yeah.
like that's not your money, like that you didn't do it. So that is the creation of a nobility, right? It's because the passing
Yeah.
down of the power to influence politicians, to influence and go ahead.
If you even want to pretend we have an American meritocracy, I think that's a good starting place. You can't inherit more than $1 million. Fine.
Yeah.
Let's go there.
So I know so
That gets
people.
hairy
Hold
when
on.
it comes
Wait a
to
minute.
I want to hear what Faye has to say. What, Faye?
All right.
What is
I don't know. I don't know if people understand that the unintended consequences of some of these things that sound really good, because $1 million is not even enough to own one
not that
home
much.
in some
Yeah.
places. And so that would mean that you wouldn't even be able to leave your home intact for your next generation or for somebody in your
Mhm.
family.
Could I-
So
could I-
there's, yeah.
I think quickly, if no one could afford those homes, the market would correct, right? If no one has more than $1 million, those homes are worth now what they're really worth.
Yeah, but you're talking about it being part of an inheritance. So like when somebody has property in a lot of areas, even if you just have like farmland,
Mhm.
that's going to be worth well over $1 million.
Yeah,
Even if
and
you're just
kind
a
of not good.
backyard farmer and have enough space to subsist on, that might be more than $1 million depending on where you live. Just the
I guess-
land itself, not even the
Point is-
building and the animals on it.
then you could sell that stuff
equipment.
and become, I mean, it just
Yeah.
becomes a way to launder money to your next of kin and focus on you putting your family
That's
above
fine. I
fellow
don't have
Americans.
Matthew laundering money
problem
to
with
your
there being
Mexican.
a
I mean,
million.
can
I
I
just
tell
think
you,
$1 million
know
is
about
really low.
I mean,
Oh,
maybe
this
the number.
don't-
1.5 million, 2 million, yeah.
Yeah, the number. At the point is like,
It doesn't
you know,
matter.
the exact number, but like there is a number, and it could be by state, by gross GDP, average property, whatever. We can use math to figure out something that is not going to like kill people, right? But
Yeah.
there's got to be a way such that like we believe in the concept of meritocracy over like inheritance, because like I have like there's a trust that my family built. My grandfather was a super successful lawyer, and got property, and he like was head of the bar inside Texas, and did some pretty big things. Have a super successful thing in the way, so he knows tax law because that was his thing. So he knows how to build the trust to avoid those things. So like that's the first pushback. If you know tax law, you're like, well, you're going to put it in trust and you don't inherit that. It goes into a third-party trust that is treated almost like a corporation, and there's certain limits of which you can draw. But you could put laws around certain trusts, that the ones that are done for this, such that they have a wealth tax on them, that they can't leave the country. And you could cut the money that, so they either first to distribute to other non-for-profits that follow not-for-profit rules, or they go back into the system. It's about building a culture of like America is the primary like directive, and not like a toxic Trumpy America first, but like giving to the community of America, right? The community giving back to it. And that's where you get your names in the buildings. That's where you do that stuff. It's not through building an empire and a dynasty, right?
Well,
That's what
the thing is with
is.
nonprofits is that they're not
Mhm.
always on the up and up either. Joel Osteen being a good example of that, where
Yeah, true.
the guy's got a multi-million-dollar mansion on a tax-exempt church that's supposed to be doing charitable work.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, takes oversight.
I also want to actually push back a little bit against the idea that meritocracy is what we are striving for, because that means that there are some people who are not deserving, right? And I don't actually agree with that. I think
That's a
that
great point.
everybody is deserving of a basic life, at least safety, and physical.
Life,
yeah,
liberty,
certain-
pursuit of happiness.
Yes, like and some disposable income, not just you have your basic needs met and then you have no choices that you can make. So
No,
there,
yeah.
I believe that
I mean, there was in a number of Asian countries in the 1800s and earlier, that was very much like meritocracy level, because you would have to take the exams to be able to see where you would fall in the social structure and what jobs you could get. And it was extremely limiting. because
we
the
don't need a
people
caste
who
system.
are poorer don't have access to the education to be able to get past those tests.
Yes.
I would
True,
say, yeah, like
although-
China is the ultimate meritocracy. That's where we, everything was based on whether you could pass the imperial exams.
That's the great point.
Yeah.
Meritocracy is not the ultimate terminal goal that we should be striving for. You know?
I don't see they're
I think a
incompatible
lot of it
though.
has to do with context too, because a lot of us like talk about like this and this will lead to this, but I feel like context based, like Faye was saying, like I think I would agree to the overall point that we need to fix our tax code in general, right? I mean, because even if we have the talk about inheritance and wealth
Right.
taxes, we have tax havens and tax shelters and offshoring and shell companies. It's like that's even more than like what the wealth or the
and
inheritance tax would be.
you know,
like trillions of dollars.
like,
probably.
a
So,
lot
Yeah,
of
and
this
I mean, like,
stuff.
Hey guys, really quickly, I'm gonna actually have to get going in like
people that
2
would be
minutes.
affected by those kinds of taxes.
Yeah. So I just
so
want to
just-
say,
owns a
I
shit
think
Guys,
ton of
Elaine's
those
trying to
Elaine
say
has
goodbye
has
to
leave,
us.
so
Elaine.
let's
Yeah.
let her talk.
Yeah.
sorry guys, I wanted to say thank you so much for this. I'm actually really enjoy this. Hopefully I can come on again. Actually, I had a really fun time.
Please, I would love to have you on again. You really should come on again. We really need you here. You're great. You really facilitated some fantastic conversation, and we would love to have you anytime. And we'll definitely have you on again. And we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you for
Cool.
coming. We won't hold you up anymore. So we'll see you soon. We'll keep in touch.
Do you want to give your own? Do you want to give a like a personal Twitter or anything that if anybody wants to, have a conversation with you, they could?
Yeah, thanks, Faye. I appreciate that. So I'm on Facebook and Twitter for @ElaineJWay. So I'll actually write it down in the chat. And also please follow the Humanity First movement and HF movement on Facebook and on Twitter as well, so we can continue the conversation. Always love to hear what people are thinking. So thank you guys so much for this chat.
Can you spell it out, because the
Oh,
chat is not visible to our listeners?
Oh, I see. Thank you so much. So it's @Elaine, ELAINE, J as in Jenny, WEY. So that's pretty much my handle for everything. So thank you guys so much. Look forward to seeing the rest of the conversation online.
All right.
All right,
See
bye.
you later. Bye-bye.
Yeah, so what I was about to say is I'm one of those people that would be affected by those kinds of taxes. And there's a lot that goes into being able to get them passed with the current situation and the current government status. And yes, we need to change a lot of that, but it's going to be very hard to change that mentality that exists in that world. I grew up in that world. My family has a crap ton of buildings in Manhattan. But my grandfather came over from Italy and was delivering ice and delivering coal. And like he was going around on the carts, wheeling the carts around Manhattan. And he built himself up. But our country, you can't do that anymore.
Right. And there's
there's a lot of like this whole like ruling class situation that has built these systems to protect themselves. So the issue that I see with getting something like these things passed is that you have to make people realize that it is in their interest, because they don't necessarily see it as in their interest, and you have to pitch it as it being in their interest. And I don't really think that we have had that kind of dialogue in that way. We have not figured out really how to pitch it to the super rich on why it's needed and how they are needed in this, because it's all about the money to them. They don't care about the social programs. So it's difficult.
So you're a good liaison then. That's a great conversation to bring up. And I mean, like, but we don't have a lot of people with any connections to money on the show too frequently. Occasionally we do, but usually they're like running their own charity or something, so they have their own angle that's a little different from just the general UBI advocacy. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it seems like you understand both our perspective and the perspective of the wealthy. So it seems like you're describing a task that is like you are suited for. So maybe you can talk to these people, and maybe, I don't know what kind of help you would need coming up with the platform to present, but I think you're onto something.
Yeah, so like one of the things that really attracted me to this movement and in general is because I think it got at the heart of something that's fundamentally American that we've sort of steered away from the past, 50 years. That the idea is like the whole point of freedom is not the ability to do whatever you want, because anytime you make a choice, you're in some way or form preventing someone else from doing something else. If I want to stand, over there, I'm preventing someone else from standing right there too, in a very microcosmic sense. And we've gotten this hyper focus that it's all about personal choice, but the original point of freedom is being able to help people as you best see fit, in such that other people can continue to help people around them as they best see fit. It's all about being able to try to help people as people best see fit and within their communities. And that's why we didn't want a top-down authoritarian, because they're not going to know what's going on in all the communities and how to best help people. But that's why we also don't believe in having like no laws, total libertarian anarchy, stuff like that, because then there's no sort of like moral structure about helping people see fit. But there's laws that are guidelines, but then we need a sort of deeper overarching morality that helps guides that in between zone. And what got excited to me about UBI is like there's this old, have you ever seen like the meme where there's like, 3 people trying to watch a baseball game and there's like a fence, right? And one person's head can stick above, the other two can't. And there's like
different
all right,
height boxes. They're
yeah,
standing up.
exactly.
Yes, I
Versus
like the good meme. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's different twists,
Yeah,
and there's one
versus
right.
removing the fence.
Yeah, and then there's other ones like, all right, well, the autocrat communism is cutting off the knees and below of the tall person and taping them to the short person. Still, no one can see over the head. Now the dude doesn't have legs, right? But the idea is that we need a way such that people frame it. Libertarians say like, well, we need the concept of capitalism to allow everyone to flourish, and that sort of artificially raises the floor. And then the more left-leaning quote unquote socialists are like, all right, well, no, we need to like cut off the ceiling and try to throw it onto the legs. And it's about coming up with the framework where we still have the ability to have that sort of meritocratic goals, where we still believe in the concept of choice and self-determination. All right, and
let's
Well,
take a
Yanni,
moment to say
thank you for
goodbye to
coming. I'm
Yanni.
sorry we had so little time. You've all been
yeah, no worries.
fantastic guests. I really would
happy
love
to
to
have
continue
on
this
more.
conversation with you guys again. Maybe very soon, maybe even next week if we can swing it. Maybe we'll figure it out. But I feel like we just did not get enough covered today with you guys, so we must have you on again soon. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Jenny, did you want to do an outro?
Yeah, so I am YENNIJB on Twitter. You can also find me Facebook, the same thing on like facebook.com/YennyJB. And I would be happy to chat with anyone. I know that I am in a extreme minority of people who come from the wealthy world that actually understand and care about social programs. I am solidly middle class now, lower middle class even. So the disconnect between me and the rest of my family is glaring. And I'm about to go into my father's 60th birthday party with a whole bunch of them. So that's going to be fun.
Yeah, but at least you know the
Yeah.
truth. You've paid dearly for this knowledge, but you got something.
Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to continuing this conversation and coming back on.
Yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Goodbye, Yanni. It was really
Have a
nice
great
of you to be
day.
here.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jenny.
See ya.
So I didn't
What
get
a
to tell
great-
Yenny while she was
Great
here,
people.
but
Yeah.
I really I don't have any money right now, but I've lived a lot of my life in a completely different sphere, and so I also feel great compassion for wealthy people. I don't
Same.
I don't have any. Yeah.
I think they're often like, I don't want to say victimized. They're often, framed as these roots of evil. And I think there are super people that are, they're super greedy. All they care about is themselves and the people immediately around them and maintaining the power. 100% for sure. But do I think there are also people who are like, all right, I want to make a positive impact in society. And right now the meta of society and game is money. And if I want to make a positive impact on society, and that's honestly my personal goal, is like, I want to go help things. And that's why I was like, all right, I'm tired of just doing business wise. Like I want to go get involved on the direct action, but I also go ahead.
It's good you hit about that, because that's my major beef with academia, because like universities don't talk about money, or they talk about it, or sometimes when you're in school they talk about money like, oh, don't worry about it, don't think about it, think about your grades. But that's doing people like like especially people who come from like a poor or lower class background a disservice when you're not telling them how to make money and how money works, because it's like don't say that it's all about grades, but like make business and money a part of it too, because that's important in life.
You know, it's fun. You know, it's funny that so like I spent some decent time in academia. My background is actually physics, and I'm a physicist and did research in the lab for a few years. But I was inside that academic space, and I almost went and got a PhD. But after getting published, I decided I wanted to go do a startup and do business because I felt like I could make a bigger impact on the world going direct to consumer rather than having this long trudgery of paying your dues as a lowly grad student and then assistant professor and so if you actually think about it, you understand why academia is very left and they're sort of against money and they're more of a top-down sort of provide system, is because that's what academics are, right? Tenure professors, they literally have a government job that is secured for life without concern. And so money is never a really big issue for them. So what they're going to this place is like, oh, you should be big, pro big government, pro, our views in situations that it, works on these sort of the ideas that fall out of academia is because they live in a situation that really benefits them from that. So they often lose so much touch of other people who don't, have those benefits and don't have those resources, and they talk down on capitalism, but like they live in a very minor system where it works great for them. And there's no consequences of like, they have competition, but it's about who does the best paper. There's no chance of them losing their job, and there's no drive for competition. And like they're smart, no doubt, but it's not just pure logic and reason. A lot of times it's life experience.
Their personal connection, I think, to the world of poverty and the working class is like 4 or 5 generations back when it was their grandfather who came over here and sold ice in a truck. So they think like, gosh, if you're poor, why don't you just go sell ice in a truck still? And that's the problem. They don't have
or they say get a degree.
Right. They think they think we're just not, they really think poor people just aren't working hard enough, and if we just work harder, we'll fix our problems. But they don't understand.
They do the opposite, and they say, oh no, like there's nothing about working, and it's literally just the government. Like if you have a government guaranteed job, that will fix like we do. If everything is done top down in this sort of system like the one we have, that'll fix everything, right? Huge, big socialism. And like I consider myself pretty progressive, but I think they miss the nature of competition and how that drives working systems.
Yeah.
Or they miss
I'm
the
not
fact
sure that it
that
has.
not everybody is like them. Like not everybody wants an academic, path for them, but you have all these high school counselors that are like, oh no, like a degree is your only way, and they talk down against the trades or like doing anything with your hands or learning about business, and just tell you to like dive your head into the books even if you're not made for that. But
the other thing is,
he was going to say something.
Yeah, go ahead, Faye.
Okay. I don't think that the competition aspect is actually helpful in a sense, because there's a lot of competition up until you get tenure, and it's very, very stressful, and some people never do. But if you make it, then you think to yourself, I made it because I was a great person and I did all the work. And so if I'm a responsible person that was able to get it, then once again, it's like there are people who are not me. And so
like
they must
history is
not
written
be
by the victors. Yeah.
right. So it's like I feel like that happens the same way when you have competition in business or in anything else. It's like there's this whole narrative of how it's all your personal responsibility to navigate these systems, and then if you make it, then that proves that the system is working, when in fact it's proving that a lot of people are going to fail.
But if the majority of people it's not working for them, then that's proof that the system is not working, but they see it as just the opposite.
Exactly.
It's like if you had a cell phone factory and 75% of those cell phones came out not working and defective, you're not going to say it's the cell phone's fault. This factory is something wrong with it. But yet we have these kids and 75% of them is like failing, and we say, oh, it's their fault. God.
Yeah, no, it's like, so but specifically about like the tenure professors, that's a very small percentage, and those are the best, the hardest working, smartest. And like, I was able to do it because of my own will. It wasn't for the pay grade, it wasn't for the like I just really am enamored by this topic and these ideas. And so like that must be like everyone else, right? So like if we don't have any sort of drive, I don't need a big paycheck. They don't get paid a bunch, and like so there needs to be no other sort of like I can just do it with a government paycheck. So that's all how everything should work, right? Because like I did it, so why can't everyone else like function and be their best person under a system without any sort of checks or like other ways to do it? So it's just like,
Well,
Yeah.
another reason for the disconnect, I suspect, has a lot to do with the fact that there's a generational gap, and within that generational gap, there were opportunities that don't exist anymore. Because, say, going back to Joe Biden's era, a lot of jobs did require you to work with your hands. There were jobs that you could definitely get that were good paying, where you could actually afford to feed a whole family with one person working, and they were menial labor jobs. That kind of opportunity doesn't exist today. Same thing with academia. Everyone says, oh, well, go to college and you'll get this great opportunity. You'll get these great paying jobs. Well, the thing is supply and demand. At the time, very few people could actually afford to go to college. So those that did were in a very small supply pool, and there was a very high demand for those skilled workers. So they paid them a lot more because they wanted to attract those skilled workers and they wanted to retain them long term. But in this day and age, unfortunately, that's not something that exists anymore. We don't have those small pools of people. In fact, we have so many graduates now that they're worth a dime a dozen in some fields, where an employer can look and say, well, if you want more pay, you can look around for other jobs. There's someone behind you that is more willing to take what I'm willing to offer as, baseline pay.
Yeah, I think also fundamentally they don't teach the concept of like generating value for a team and for an idea in a company. It's they teach you some set of skills, but they don't teach you how to think about, all right, how do you use these skills to generate a set of value. So like I'm a head of product for this startup.
Practical application.
Yeah, and so like we're building a portable device that turns humidity in the air to drinkable water. And so I'm head of product for it, but we got some interns on who are seniors at University of Houston, a solid tier 1 school, one electrical engineer and one chemical. And they come in, all right, I have these skills and know how to solve these equations. And what ends up happening is that like they just want to like, all right, I know how to do these problems like that. Or what do you want me to do? I'm like, well, I need you to help me like, go build or design some product aspect. And what ends up happening, they can't take these equation skills and like be given an open-ended question. And I remember in one of my classes that it was we were given an open-ended question by a professor, and everyone panicked. And they actually sent a letter to the dean complaining that the professor wasn't giving them a clear problem with a clear, distinct problem definition. Like, because that's not how problems exist in the real world. And students literally complain when they're given real-world problems and how to build and solve it. So it's like there's a fundamental, exactly what Ariel is saying. They're not teaching the requisite skills. They're teaching how to solve problems. But like the world, we need to figure out the right problem we're trying to solve. And I think that's a big disconnect.
Yeah, I would assert that they're teaching to solve the wrong problems because the wrong problems are rewarded economically. Real value is completely disconnected from financial reward in our economy. So it makes a sort of perverse sense for them to teach what pays rather than what is actually valuable,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Massey, I had this idea that like in high school, like young people could be taken to like a store or a shop or like somewhere where value is created and just watch how that works. Interactions between customers, business owners, and employees to like why is that not possible? Like why? I also had an idea for like these like virtual goggles that can teach you how to learn about like practical things in your house, or like let's say like a light burns out or your refrigerator stops or you have a problem with a washer or a dryer, like maybe like the instructions are on the virtual reality goggles, just like practical stuff for like living in your house and how it works, or like how commerce works and how money is created. Like it just amazed me. Like we're young and we don't even get any of this, you know?
Yeah. No,
Well,
it's-
what you're
it's-
talking about, Google Glass attempted to do. It's called augmented reality, where it overlays information on the real world.
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's like it and then but instead of like, you know, you have like an instructions on like how to build something or how to, you know, make in for baking or cooking. Like though, yeah, I was thinking those instructions can like be augmented, so you don't have to like walk to the instruction and read it and then go back and then walk there. Yeah, but
Yeah.
anyway, I just had an idea.
No, I see. No, I mean, honestly, I see that. I don't know if anyone's has seen the show on HBO. It's really cool. It didn't get a ton of fanfare, but it's called Years and Years, and it's like really interesting, and it's set in like 2020, and like the first episode, like Trump like wins re-election, and then essentially each episode is like 6 months. And there's really worth watch. It's just one season. I'm not sure if to make more, but worth a cool watch. Sort of a Black Mirror-esque type show if you've seen that. But one of the things that get toward to the end is the technology where like you're, you know, semi-permanently plugged into the internet, and you have the ability to like sort of preempt thoughts of like, oh, I need help on this, and instead of having to pull out your phone and type and text and, you know, figure out sort of an Alexa that's sort of permanently with you that can predict the things that you're gonna need help with or get done. You can sort of think a quick thought, and you know it picks that thought and will automatically retrieve the information for you that you can work dynamically with it. And I think, you know, that's where we're going. Elon Musk is you know, working on that brain AI integration company, and like there's going to be like medical things, so it's going to slow it down a lot. But if people go to other countries and get stuff working that don't have the risk, like it's going to give them such an advantage. And like I wouldn't be surprised if we're getting like people are doing basic sort of augmented stuff like that in the next like 20 years. Like I really do think that's the future.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
People
But
are
at the
anything
same
that
time,
requires
for ethical reasons, you should have a choice of whether you want it like really downloaded into you,
Oh yeah,
or like
yeah.
you know, you or you just want to use it, but then have the option of taking it off. You know,
Yeah.
that's the most important. It's like you turn it on and off when you want. When you want a challenge, you know, you turn it off. But then when you're just getting started, you can turn it on for like extra help. It like provides autonomy. Yeah.
That is a terrifying thought. Just think the word computer virus and digital to brain interface. Think about that for a second.
No, but that's why I'm
Frightening.
thinking of more like goggles or helmets instead of something that's like downloaded into your actual.
Yeah, you're just
physical
talking about
body.
augmented reality, which already totally exists. I mean,
Yeah.
all kinds of
Yeah.
augmented reality headsets exist.
Yeah.
For, like, you know, platforms as simple as like Windows 10, and they're
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
They're cool. They're really an upcoming technology, and they, you know, on phones, even like games like Pokemon Go. I mean, Faye, we're just talking about this. Like Pokemon,
Yeah.
you know, that's augmented reality. You walk around and you see Charmander out in your front yard, and you catch him.
But I'm
You
talking
can-
about like
Mm.
that as a form of like learning things.
Yeah,
or like,
there are companies that are doing that. But it's funny you mentioned virus. You know what I really think, and people aren't really talking about it this way, but I think it fundamentally is fake news is an augmented reality virus, right? It is the
Yeah.
virus you're talking about. You wouldn't be necessarily manipulating the brain cells in a way that it's not sort of you're perceptively going with it. It just you'd be bombarded with ads and fake news and tricking and figuring out algorithms to drive your brain to go do certain stuff to you know get you hyped up or excited or think there's terrorists in a child, you know, prostitution ring going out of a pizza parlor in New York, you know, right? Like there are these fake news things, and they're literally a viral, you know, virus on society. It's like they're literally they figure out how to hack our emotional state and get us to go react abnormally into a stage, and we continue to not behave like our normal selves because of this misinformation, this hack into our emotional system. And like,
Well, that's scary in and of itself, but now imagine that it can be added subliminally because we don't fully understand how the brain operates we understand how the brain affects motor and biological functions, but we really don't understand how the brain operates on a psychological level with the physical hardware. So that's
Yeah.
a frightening thought. Is imagine you're asleep and all that stuff is being subliminally fed to you, where, you know, these thoughts that aren't your own are being basically programmed in. well, you're in a state of suggestibility.
Yeah, that's terrifying. That's a
Yeah.
terrifying thought.
There's obviously, like, I'm not going to pretend like I'm the regulator, here. I was interesting, actually, for my freshman year, I actually got to work in a perceptual neuroscience lab, and that was like a really cool opportunity. And like we studied how the brain perceives vibration and hearing, and as well as visual. And we were trying to understand, how does the brain deal with sensory stimulus, and how do they interact, like, subconsciously and pre-perceptually? Like, could you have one sense affect another sense? Like, could you be hearing a frequency and have vibration manipulate the pitch you're hearing? And what we showed is that yes, like, by touching something that's 100 hertz, you could think something that you're hearing is 110 hertz. You could think it's actually 105 hertz, and then you untouch it and it goes back to 110. And they did stuff with, like, if you're touching like patterns of arrows, you can more quickly identify arrows on a screen. And so what it's showing is that there's actually so much of this brain processing of how we think we're perceiving the world. We think we're getting it as it is, but there's so much of the stuff going on behind sort of our consciousness that we can totally mess with the perceptions of reality. That it definitely is a scary thing, but like, are people going to be working on it so they can have a personal Alexa and do 10 times the work inside of the brain? For sure. Like, it's going to be happening. We just have to have these conversations ahead of time, so we can be thinking about these sort of regulations and thinking about these ahead of time, so one person doesn't invent it and it turns into a craze, and we run into these issues you're talking about.
Yeah, like being a good human being nowadays involves all this meta thinking about how to think, how to be human.
How to be a cyborg. Yeah.
How to be a cyborg and still be more human, and making humans more important. But at the same time, we've turned ourselves and we've given ourselves a modern life where people are too busy to do any of this thinking. You're literally too exhausted from just being the machine all day and trying to make money.
Hence UBI.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. Dude, I'm all about UBI and education. Like, that comes the idea, like what Faye perfectly said, is that, if we're not making sure everyone has intrinsic value, and meritocracy makes no sense, because then it's a lying way to keep essentially the elites who get the access to the best education, best ability to go
And the
continue
best
to do work.
robots and algorithms.
Yeah, exactly.
Why do they want you when they could
That's
get a
bought
robot
from
that
their
does it?
parents.
They will
Their
literally
parents.
be able to buy better parts for their mind and body when they're cyborg.
Oh,
So
good
that's
Lord.
the dark future that we have. I don't know.
Oh man, now you're getting
I
into
mean, they
some
could
board
already
shit.
afford better iPhones, and they can already afford better technology than the people who are struggling with the money, and that technology helps them to make the money. So it's just fundamentally not fair.
Massey, I wanted to let everybody know about a few things. One of the things, and as our podcast is coming to an end today, one of the things is we have a Yang Gang logo, a new Yang Gang logo that we have commissioned in order to put it on our podcast table. It's the YG, and it has the flag and on the wide wrapping around, just like Andrew Yang's original Y logo for the Yang 2020 campaign. And so we put that out as a public for the public, so anybody can go on our website. It's ygrtpodcast.com, and you can download that logo and use it for your own for your own purposes. If you want to make a Yang Gang something and you want to use our logo, go ahead and do that. Or if you want to just use it for your profile photo or something like that and represent. So, and also I wanted to let everybody know that I think maybe we could take like a couple of minutes and just honor somebody who passed. Everybody knows John Lewis a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is the latest news from last night is he passed from cancer at the age of 80, I think. Is that right?
I don't think I know who he was.
Yeah,
Okay.
the age of 80. Yeah.
Big civil rights icon and congressperson. I'm sure if you saw a picture of him, you'd recognize him. He's pretty high ranking, and was a big civil rights fighter, and did a lot of progressive forward thinking stuff to improve life for normal people. So definitely big loss.
Yeah, there's some really interesting history. He won the Presidential Medal of Freedom from Barack Obama in 2011, which is considered the nation's highest civilian award. And he has served 17 terms in Congress. He was elected for his 17th term in November of 2018. And
I don't like that.
yeah, just some really amazing things. He was an original protester way back in the day. And he actually was, I think, his skull was fractured in one of the demonstrations way back for a trying to pass the Voting Rights Act. There was an event in Alabama called Bloody Sunday. And so, yeah, he's very well respected, and I think it would be good for us to take like maybe just a minute to honor him.
Okay. Oh, Mass.
Yeah.
I sent you a friend request because I'm really fascinated with things that you're studying and the neuroscience and like all of that stuff. And yeah,
Yeah, I
let's
got
stay
you.
in touch.
Yeah, for any listeners who want to add me on social media, on Facebook, I'm Richard Massey Branscombe, RichardMassey. That should probably find me. And then on Instagram and Twitter, I'm mimetic _ theory. So that's meme tick MEMETIC _ theory THEORY. And I post on Instagram as more memes and like content I create. I like to create some stuff, and also have a YouTube that I haven't made something for in quite a bit, but I might do some videos in a bit under mimetic theory. And then Twitter is a bit of commentary and comedy. So I try to balance things out and keep it fun. So that's the great place to find me.
Cool.
All right. Thank you very much for staying for the entire podcast. Looks like.
Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
it's great having you.
Yeah,
Really,
thank
for having
you.
me.
really good conversation.
You're the one with the microwave profile on Twitter?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, cool. That's all right, guy. All right. Yeah. I'd love to have you actually on my personal YouTube channel, Revolutionary Thinking, to talk about not just UBI, but like the kind of things that you found out about neurology and what gets people like happy and sad. And I don't know, like we're living in a very emotional, turbulent time. So like whatever you've learned from your studies on like how that's regulated and how that works.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a good time to re-understand emotions.
Yeah, I'd
Yes.
totally be down. I want to be clear. Like I said, I spent a year in a lab focusing. I was focused specifically, and I think this is maybe sort of a misconception about academic research in general. They think when you go get a PhD, you learn everything about the entire field, and knows what you really do is you're diving super deep into one tiny little thing and understanding it very clearly. But it's just a couple of papers, and I didn't even get a PhD. I just spent a year in a lab because I thought it was interesting, and then I was like, all right, well, let me go do material science and physics and see how I feel about that, and continue that with that on a little bit more. So in the world of like technology and nanoscience, like I'm definitely a little bit more, in physics and quantum stuff. I can talk about that a little bit more in depth, but like I don't mind doing some research and based on my foundational knowledge and building and finding, sifting through the bullshit and finding stuff. Okay, what is actually like real ideas? What is the current state of stuff? So yeah, totally be down. Give me some heads up, and I would love to.
Yeah,
And
I love
that
labs.
I love that Massey is in Texas with me.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, we're gonna have to catch up and hopefully get you on. I know you're a little far away for the protest we're doing, but hopefully we'll figure out something to meet up sometime. If not after COVID, but we'll figure out something.
Will there ever be an after COVID? This is a question for the ages right now.
I mean,
Find out next
until
time on the next
vaccine.
episode of.
After COVID.
Yeah.
All right. Zephyr wants to say hi, apparently. Hi,
Hi,
Zephyr.
Zephyr.
Hello.
Hey.
So
Hey, Zephyr.
You got a
Cute.
thing behind you.
Do you like my new scene? Okay, this is from Natchitoches. This is this is an alligator, like a museum kind of.
Oh.
But it's an outdoor museum full of alligators.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Cool.
Dope.
And this is their feeding. They actually lower like a chicken, a raw chicken.
I believe it.
And the alligators just go nuts. They love it.
I'm not surprised.
But that is not Texas. That's Louisiana.
I was gonna say that doesn't look quite like Texas, but it seems like an aesthetic, and I appreciate a cool aesthetic. So. All right, I gotta hop off, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Man.
Hi.
All right,
Take
cool.
care.
Thanks for coming.
Bye.
See you later.
Thanks.
Take care, Massey.
Thank you for coming, Massey.
Thanks, Angelo. See you.
See you.
Thanks everybody for
And
listening.
now there was one.
Yeah.
Well, we have one remaining board member, interim board member,
Oh yeah.
who is a part of our regular podcast. So,
Yeah.
Angelo, is there anything else we should tell people about getting on Slack or anything before we go? Oh, were we supposed to introduce the website? I just found
Yes.
out about this.
Yeah, so you can go to our website at hfmovement.org to find out more information about what's going on the National Yang Gang level and how to get involved. We are trying to reactivate the entire Yang Gang, and we do meet with HF weekly and with Andrew Yang once a month.
And I see that you guys have different chapters now set up. Some of the state chapters actually have a website, and they're linked in to the chapters by map. You can click on the map.
Yeah, we are basically acting as representatives for the chapters, and any Yang Gang that want to get involved and help out, get their voices heard, we're more than happy to work with them too. We definitely want everyone in the Yang Gang to activate and be heard, because this is the time to make things happen. It's not in 2024, it's not in 2022, it's now. We don't want to end up in 2024 where we're trying to build the plane and fly it again. You know, this is the time to lay that foundation.
Yang Gang powers activate.
We're
Right.
doing all we can. Yeah. That's why we do so many
Did you
episodes.
guys see my new shirt?
I
know.
did.
My mom
That was so
did.
cool.
Nice.
Area across
Yeah.
the world.
Are you
Nice.
selling those?
Well, I actually had to buy it myself.
Yeah.
So I'll see, but maybe they do some. I bought from a place called like Sunfrog T-shirts. It's really funny. This thing came up on my Facebook. It was an ad, and there was a hat that said, "It's an Ariel thing you just won't understand." And then I'm like,
What the
okay,
hell?
that's the.
Yeah, we get it.
Yeah. So then I'm like, okay, first of all, I'm pretty sure like they do this with everyone. They just and then I looked up like it's a Kevin thing, it's Ando thing, it's a Faye thing, and they had it for like each and every name,
So
but it was
fucking
just like
stupid.
so what?
That's so stupid.
Yeah. And then it's like, and then I'm like, I wonder what else like names they can make out of like shirts and like all this other stuff. So yeah, I just said, hey,
Like, what kind of message is that to send the world? No one
What?
can understand me. I don't know.
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Well, as my grandmother used to say, every mind is a universe unto itself.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, that's why I didn't get that one. But like, yeah.
Okay. I wanted to ask one last question to Angelo, which is, if you are already on the national Slack, should you still go to this website and put your information in there? Because as I understood it, like the national Slack like didn't have like everybody's emails and postal addresses, so they haven't been able to just make these,
Yes, definitely. This way we can get everyone on the same email list, and we can keep everyone up to date. We also have our YouTube channel, which is HF Movement. You can watch our Sunday calls, which are always broadcast, where we give everyone an update on what's going on around the national Slack and what we're planning on doing in the future.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, well, should we start signing off? I'm going to sign off
Yeah.
as at Palestine Math. If you happen to be on Twitter and you want to connect with me.
Okay, I'll sign off. I'm at Ariel's underscore Armada, so that's ARIELS underscore ARMADA, and YouTube is Revolutionary Thinking. I just made a new video today, actually, about the shirt and about my ideas about it, and
I didn't mean to
how-
shit on the shirt. I'm so sorry if I came off that way. I thought it was a shirt for your YouTube channel, and then
oh no, it was,
yeah.
no, but you were shitting on the just won't understand one, not against the world one.
I mean, the same thing kind of applies if you extend the logic. I hate to say it, but like I anyway, you're
Yeah.
great.
But I just thought like yeah, that idea was that like it was like against mainstream culture.
Yeah, I get.
So
Yeah, I get it.
No,
was
that
what's in
I
it.
think-
T-shirt is
yeah.
actually perfect for Ariel, and it represents
It
him
is,
because I
it
see him
is.
tilting at every windmill.
Yeah.
In a time when the windmills are
like
know,
you know
nanotech or something.
That's why I thought it was like
I-
associated with your YouTube channel, so like it makes sense in that context. Yeah.
You know what I'd love to do with that statement? Just like spray paint it onto my helicopter, and if I had a plane, like that would be like the best. But I
Yeah.
also have another one on its way. Keep calm and let Ariel handle it, because I'm very calm and I don't fly off the handle.
Oh,
So I'm looking
man.
forward to that one. I'll see which
You
one.
got to use these when you run for office.
Right. I'll see which one works better. No, I always said to myself, now that I'm getting all this extra money, I'm kind of bored with like just, eating and drinking and I don't know, like material pleasures. I want to send my message out to the world. So let's try that. Like, so yeah. I'm still experimenting. And of course,
Investing in messaging.
yeah, and of course, you can find me Ariel's underscore Ariels, which is ARIELS underscore AERIALS, which is some awesome cool drone photos.
Oh, drones. All right. That's
All
Okay.
right. And once again, my name is Angelo Mendoza. You can find me on Twitter at Hellion Hellfire.
Thank you. And I am at SHAELRILEY, Shale Riley on Twitter. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you again soon. Take care of each other.